Great. So thank you guys for joining on our first webinar of the series about engaging stakeholders in student surveys. This first session will be about engaging teachers in student surveys. My name is Ryan Balch. I'm the CEO of My Student Survey. We help organizations both create student surveys as well as administer student surveys. So today what we're going to talk about, communication strategy tips that we found to be effective with our clients. We're going to talk about high-quality feedback report characteristics, and I'll be able to show you a couple characteristics and what some of the pieces that we do. And we'll also talk about screening procedures as well. And at the end, we'll have time for questions. I know there are a couple questions that were sent in, so we're happy to help with that.
$4,975. Just send it if I don't need it. I need a receipt.
And by the way, just a quick reminder, if you guys could go ahead and hit your mute button, that'll probably help with some of the feedback. So, all right. So there's one other piece about what topics are relevant. One of the things that is not necessarily within the scope of what we're doing today is the idea of developing a customized student survey that goes through a rigorous validation framework. It is a very strong way of being able to engage teachers. It's an entire topic to itself, and we have other information that we can provide, other webinars that we can provide that we've done about this topic. But what that goes through is allows questions that you develop for your survey to align with your local teaching standards. It also allows teachers to be able to give feedback on the items and input and make sure that they do meet the standards. Happy to tell more about it, but that's another really strong way of doing it, which is an entirely webinar to itself. So today we're going to talk about a few other strategies. The first one, we want to talk about our communication strategy. So frequent communication, as you have seen in a lot of your other initiatives within a district, frequent communication helps really allow people to feel like they know what's coming. And the idea of, you need to share it 7 different ways for them to be able to get the total message rings true. So the communication starting early in the year and updates and reminders by newsletters, emails should be at least monthly. And then you'll want to think about doing training for survey coordinators about a month ahead of time to allow them to get onto a faculty meeting agenda. So these are several different types of communications. And for the survey coordinators, one of the great ideas is to be able to provide sample slides for them within your survey coordinator training to be able to help with that. So we've got communication electronically. We've got training of our survey coordinators, which then gets passed along to folks within the school. But then also thinking about information sessions, in-person information sessions. And what they would really do is just outline the logistics, the benefits of survey items, as well as the way that the information would be used. Some of the groups that we've met with for a variety of districts would be principals groups are really helpful for them to know what's coming. Often you can do a group of teacher leaders or some sort of any type of teacher group that meets on a regular basis, just be able to give them a preview of it. We also work a lot with unions to make sure we go to their normally monthly meeting of union officials. And we present, here's what's coming about the student survey, here's what it is, here's what it's not, allow them to ask questions. And a group that's often sometimes forgotten is the parent groups as well. A lot of times there might be for the district or for the school, there might be the local teachers or parent organizations. So giving them some information about it and talking to them about it is helpful. In complement with this is being able to send out information about a Q&A session. So these are pieces of, here's what's coming, come and ask our questions. We may not be able to get to every school, that kind of thing, but you can come and ask your questions via chat. They can be held online. And the nice thing is that a lot of those questions, you can publish the transcript afterwards on a website so other people that have similar questions can find answers for those. The third strategy is thinking about a web page dedicated to student surveys. And so this would have a lot of the earlier communications really directed. It's a central place that you have an information about the survey. It would have administration dates, information sessions, talk about the Q&A dates. It'll also talk a lot about how it's used. Is it for evaluation? Will principals see it? Is it only for feedback? Just so people are very, very aware of what it will and what it won't be used for. And then a big piece of that is including a full version of the survey questions on this website. This is one I really want to emphasize because transparency builds a lot of trust. So sometimes teachers have an initial apprehension that the questions on the survey are things about a teacher's shoes, if they wear nice clothes, or if they're the coolest teacher in school, and it's really much better for them to interact with the questions and come away with a sense of, hey, I really want to know the answers to that. What do they think of this? As a sample website that we've done, this is give you something to look at. This is one we've done for Syracuse City Schools. And it's similar. We were doing a climate survey as well as staff survey, and it's a central place where they can go and find information about the items, about the dates of administration, and they can also have a full version of the survey here if they would like. Okay, so let's move on to our second one. When we talk about the second piece we're going to talk about is high-quality feedback reports. Ultimately, the way that teachers will buy into student surveys is seeing how it can actually help them grow as professionals and seeing that this can be a meaningful tool for feedback. Some of the key characteristics within feedback reports are secure, unique logins, so teachers feel that they have secure results and they have access to it. The inclusion of overall and scale results as well as item-level information. I'll go back into that in just a second. The second piece is thinking about really trying to highlight areas of strength and focus so that instead of trying to think of, trying to improve on 40 to 50 different areas, you're really honing down and thinking about certain areas of focus. We also would suggest the ability for teachers to take action, have a place where they can create a plan and have that plan be shared. And we'll show you an example. And then finally, having principals be able to identify high-scoring teachers in the building so that they can serve as models for other teachers. So I'm going to go ahead and show you an example of a feedback report that has some of those within it. So this is the, you can see this will first start at a district view here. We're going to get down into an individual teacher report so we're able to show some of these features. And you'll see within this report, we can go, this is like what a school would see, and you can go to any of these teachers, and we can go and see the actual report that a teacher might see. So here you can see the overall scales that we were discussing, and you can also see the scales for each of the categories of a survey. So being able to get some information about both of those and to put it in context with school and district average, as you see here. And the other piece is thinking about the item level information. And when you go down to the bottom here, you can see for every single question, you can read the question, how you did on that as an individual teacher overall compared to school and district average. And then you can also see how all the student scores. And this will allow teachers to be able to go through and get more information about every single item. You'll also notice that we have here, this is designated as an area of focus. And so within each category, what we do is we designate one item as an area of strength and one item as an area of focus. And that allows us to, that allows teachers to be able to go through and identify specific behaviors. The other thing that is that can be helpful is if you look over here on the left side, you'll notice this is what we call our top teacher function, where this is only available in a principal's report. This wouldn't be something that a teacher might necessarily see. But this allows principals to have that conversation of, hey, Ms. Jones, I see that you have, this is your area of focus. I'd like you to work with Mr. Edison on trying to have a conversation, do a short observation of their class. And then a couple other features is one of the things is having an action plan or a next steps piece of it. So one of the features that we have is we have an ability to go through and identify and create action plans where a teacher can write in, here's the instructional strategies that we'd like to use for this one. And that could come from a conversation. It could come from our video library, which has videos and strategies for every single one of the items. Or it could come from conversation with an instructional leader, from an observation, and then trying to think about the tangible times in which they're going to use this. At that point, you want to be able to share it so you can have your email for a copy as well as an instructional coach or a principal to be able to take action on these steps. So these are a couple of the features that can help, and it really the primary piece that it helps with is taking those student survey results and translating them into tangible action of practice. So the other part about feedback reports is that it's helpful to provide additional support for teachers in using results. So you've given them great feedback reports, but now it consists of allowing them time for teachers to discuss and to collaborate on it. So, and I really encourage you to think through existing structures. Where's a structure that exists now that teachers can use, such as a mid-year review, a data analysis team, professional learning communities, work with an instructional coach? This can be data that can provide substance for some of those conversations, and it is an additional source of data in which to use to set goals. And then there also is helpful to have that follow-up in place. So now you've gotten the results, you've met with your instructional coach and set some next steps and plans. How are you going to set up that system where they can monitor their progress with things like longitudinal results, being able to track their results over time, and have them check in with that same team afterwards. So the last piece I want to discuss is talking about screening procedures. So one of the key concerns that we hear when we talk to teachers is if the validity of student surveys can lower levels of acceptance for student feedback if they aren't believing that the results are coming from students. They're worried about somebody having, say, using this as an example, as an opportunity to get back at a teacher. You assigned too much homework or whatever it is. And that can be harmful. So that can concern the validity of it. And they want to know their students are taking it seriously. So screening procedures allow us to identify student responses that are invalid. And this allows us to, if a student is having a bad day or if they didn't feel like taking the survey, we identify that procedure and we eliminate that from the teacher's results. I'm going to go into some of the specifics of how we do that. There's a few different procedures I want to outline. The first one is using an outlier removal. It's flagging answers that are different than the class average, and we've got some pretty advanced algorithms that set limits on what is acceptable and so forth, because one student answering a question differently than other people may mean they have a different experience, and that needs to still be heard. But it's when you see a consistent pattern, and we've got some ways of identifying that. Some other pieces, there's been some decent research about when you ask students about were they honest taking a certain survey, they respond rather faithfully to that. You can also identify people that just aren't reading the questions, and they might answer it in the negative. But that's been an effective piece. Timestamps, some people race through it, particularly when you're doing an online survey. You're able to take some of these timestamps and be able to see how long they spent on the survey and set that threshold. And then also looking for student responses that have a standard deviation of 0. We put in some negatively worded questions within our survey. We don't use that for survey results because we found over and over that students have some trouble answering negatively worded items. So we primarily have them in there as in order to prevent what's called a response set, or a student writing the same answer over and over. We try to have a negatively worded item to be able to break that pattern. And it also helps us with some of our screening procedures where we've got a negatively worded item. If that student is still marking the same answer for every single question, we know that shouldn't happen with that item. So having this minimum standard deviation works best when you have some of those questions in place for it. So in terms of the next step of putting these together, a lot of this is a week-by-week communication plan, thinking about what's going to go out, where we're going to be in the field, when are our Q&A sessions. Having that week-to-week plan will allow you to backdate from your survey administration to really have that specific communication plan. The second piece is thinking about how to create on your own using some of the characteristics or utilize high-quality feedback reports from others, from organizations that provide them. The third thing is thinking about structuring time to be able to use those feedback results. Where is it going to fit in? And that's really helpful to highlight on the front end, too, of this is where it's going to be used. You'll talk about this in your mid-year conversation. And then finally, thinking about what screening procedures you would like to use and developing your method so that you can then implement it for student surveys. So these are the big things. And the primary concern of engaging teachers is that when teachers feel that they have been a part of the process, when they feel that it's been transparent, when they have it's useful for them and it's the best results possible, then what we see is an acceptance that turns into action. We see them seeing this as a tool that can really help them as individuals, as professionals, and we see that translate into change in practice, which ultimately is going to be good for kids in school. So I'm going to stop the recording at this point, and I'm going to open